Hello to the second part of culture studies. So we have already discussed major critiques of CCCCS in the first part. So in today's video we would be discussing 5 more cultural critiques with every key term and every concept, every important book, and there will be another part 3 which will cover some more critiques. And yes, in the 3 videos you are done with your culture studies for this summer 2025. We are trying our best to upload the videos in a very most efficient way, and so that you get the most of the information in very much less time. So let us just start from the Antonio Gramsci. Now Antonio Gramsci, he was born in 1891 and he died in 1937. Now he was one such Italian Marxist cultural critic who was very revolutionary in his spirit. Now he went to the imprisonment also because he kind of resisted against Benito Mussolini, who was a journalist and we can say dictator of Italian regime at that time. So he was put into the prison and there he wrote prison notebooks, which is his most important work from the point of view of net also. Now this is a kind of series of essays which were written from 1929 to 35, and in this notebook he has talked about his experiences and his political theories and his key ideas. Let us just start from the terms given by Antonio Gramsci. So his most important term is hegemony. Now what is hegemony? Hegemony is something that it is not important that you just control other person just by the way of force or by telling that person that yes, I have to force. Hegemony means rule by consent. Now what does this mean? In order to exploit someone, we does not need just power and force. We can exploit someone and rule over someone just by the way of ideology, just by the way of manipulation, just by getting their consent. So this is known as hegemony. A very good example of this was when our India was a colony of Britishers and we were in a kind of submissive to those Britishers, and they told us that yes, we will rule you, we will educate you, we will bring technology, railway to your country. And we in a kind of accepted that thing because we were under the impression that yes, they want to improve us. So they were kind of dominating us by our own consent. So this is known as hegemony. So in cultural studies, hegemony can be seen everywhere in our society. Now second term which he has given is subaltern, that it is a group in a society which is marginalized from the mainstream society, and the group does not have its own political agency means the freedom to do whatever they want, their identity and things like that. So they do not have that agency and they are facing hegemony. So this is known as subaltern. The third thing that he has given us is that political society and civil society. Now what does this mean? Political society means that these are the traditional institutions of a political authority. Now what does this mean? So there are various kinds of institutions like government, we have military, police and legal system, justice and everything. So they are the political institutions, but you know what, we cannot say that these are the only people who are ruling us or who have a hegemony over us. Even the civil society, that means the institutions which are related to education, literature, media and our ideology and philosophy. So these are also kind of a tool in the hands of those who are ruling over us. So for a hegemony or to dominate somebody, we can use both political society and also the civil society. So these are the two ways to dominate over someone by their own consent. You have seen that either it is the police who has some fear in the citizens of a society, or either we have different kinds of books, media and the things that we consume and watch which changes our ideology and which makes us follow some things, follow some rules to conform to the rules. So all are these and a kind of, a kind of manipulation. Other thing which he talks about is, intelligentsia. Now intelligentsia is a term which is used for the scholars and the intelligent people of a society, the scholars, the generals, the researchers, the policy makers, the think tank of a society. So they are known as intelligentsia. So Gramsci says that there is a traditional intelligentsia in our society, which are, universities, colleges, states. So they are also, manipulating us. They are also using hegemony in us. A very good example of traditional intelligentsia's hegemony can be seen if you just imagine a situation in which there are some marginalized writers or small narrative works that are important for you to know, but the universities, departments, and the authorities that are making the syllabus do not recommend such works in your syllabus, because if you do so, if you do learn about them, if you do read things like that, then you revolt. And the another example can also be that novel by George Orwell, 1948. In that we can see that how even the vocabulary is getting corrupted, and the important words that needs to be there can have been deleted from their vocabulary, so that the citizens of that regime do not revolt against the government or the intelligentsia. Now let us talk about two other terms that he has given, which is war of position and war of maneuver. Now whenever we want to resist, we need two kinds of war, he says. First is war of position, and then we need war of maneuver. Now let me explain. So first you will need war of position. This means that you need a very slow and gradual change in the ideology of the people, so that you get some time in order to collect the people and to collect your support, and then you can indulge in war of maneuver, which is the war which can use military like confrontation and force. So this is the way how we resist in a society. Then he also talks about philosophy of praxis. Now what is this? Praxis means learning plus at the same time taking action. He says that if you want to go against the authorities who are having a hegemony over you, then we need some common sense. A common sense which is of higher level, a kind of awareness in every person, and every person is capable of making a change. So by mixing all these things, by having a conscious mind and by having a good common sense, we can resist the authorities. And praxis means that if you are learning something, if you are learning theories, if you are learning about exploitation, then it is important that you also take actions, that you also go against the authorities. It is not just in the theories and books that you can talk about. Okay, so that is all about Antonio Gramsci. So let us just move to our another writer. Moreover, I would like to highlight this part that you need to remember a few books by them. At present we are learning about all these concepts and theories by the point of view of culture studies, but they will also come in our literary theory part, the lecture that we would be uploading after this unit. So I would recommend you to make your concepts clear, so that it would help in the literary theory also. Now when it comes to Louis Althusser, who was born in 1918 and he died in 1919, he was a French Marxist philosopher, and he has a major role in developing the Marxist theory. So when it comes to ideas given by him, there are various kinds of ideas which are important from the point of view of theory as well as culture studies. So the first idea he has given is structural Marxism. Now we all know that Karl Marx has given us a theory in which he says that there is a superstructure which is the ideology, literature, art, and the expression and what we think of any society, and at the bottom we have a base which is the economic base of our society, which is all about the class, money, wages, and materialistic things. And Marx says that the most important part of this structure is the economic base, and this determines the superstructure. Because this exists, so there is an existence of superstructure, and superstructure does not influence our economic base. But here Louis Althusser says that no, this is wrong. This structural Marxism is of course right to some extent, but no, there is a kind of of relative autonomy on the part of state, or we can say superstructure. Now superstructure, or we can say the literature, ideology, what we think, what we do, and what we write, education, politics, so all these things are also very important factors in determining our economic base. A very good example of this can be, just imagine that you have read a book which is literature itself, and literature comes in the superstructure. So by reading that book, you make new economic policies, you try to improve the economic base of the society. So here we can say that whatever we are doing in superstructure, so whatever we are reading in literature, it changes our mind, and it can also change the ground situation, or we can say economic base. Then he gives us two terms, which is ideological state apparatus and regressive state apparatus. Now ideological state apparatus means that it is the change of ideology. Now what does this mean? If a state wants to rule its citizens or dominate its citizens, then they will use ideology. Ideology by the way of literature, art, fashion, and what we think. So they will manipulate our literature, they will manipulate our religion, they will manipulate our education, they will manipulate what we are learning. And by regressive state apparatus, what they will do, they will manipulate us or dominate us by force, by police, by military. So that is regressive state apparatus. So by both ways, state is kind of controlling its people. Now last and the most important idea given by Louis Althusser is interpellation. Now interpellation means that whatever society calls us into. Now let me explain. So if I tell you, hey, you have just stolen my pen. So here I am addressing you. So this you is known as interpellation. How? I am giving you an identity that you are somebody who have stolen my pen. So this interpellation works in a culture, in a society, where society, or we can say culture, addresses us and they give us identity on who we are. For instance, we have seen that girls are brainwashed by the day they are born, that they have to wear everything pink. The favorite colors of girls is pink. They should play with the Barbie dolls, they should learn cooking, they should be more into the fashion and makeup, and boys should be more into the outdoor activities like guns and cars, bikes, and technology, and they should love blue color. So this is all brainwashing, and this is kind of making an ideology, and that is all about that they have told them that this is your identity and this is you and this is you. So this is known as interpellation. Now let us talk about Stephen Greenblatt. Now Stephen Greenblatt is an American literary critic, and he was more interested in Renaissance studies, and he has analyzed Shakespeare and his works really well. He has given the theory of new historicism, or we can say cultural poetics. And there are a few ideas of Stephen Greenblatt that we should know about. When it comes to new historicism, now new historicism is a new kind of approach in order to study literature. Old historicism said that the history, politics, and economics of the age, or of we can say the writer, in which the writer is writing some work, so that is the most important thing that should be considered as a fact, because from that age, from that condition, social political background, a work comes. So that background is more important even than the text. But new historicism says that we should give equal weightage to the history politics of that time plus the work also, because there is an interrelationship between them and they both are important and they are both intertwined because they both are influencing each other. So even the historical, we can say journals, magazines, speeches, autobiographies, or we can say newspapers, they are also a part of literature because they have also some meaning in them. So they treat it equally. So this is the idea of Stephen Greenblatt of New Historicism, or we can say cultural poetics. Now the second term that he has given is circulation of social energy. Now social energy is a kind of dynamic, we can say force, or we can say tension in a society. So in a society we have power relations and a kind of tension and dynamic force between different parties. So this social energy is everywhere in the culture. It is circulated everywhere. So this is the circulation of social energy. Now this social energy is reflected in the works of literature. How? Let me tell you that in King Lear we can see that how King Lear has divided the kingdom among his daughters, but there is a kind of struggle between the daughters for the sake of kingdom, for the sake of property. So this is a kind of struggle to get better, struggle for the money, struggle for the materialistic things. So this is known as this dynamic force, the tension. So this is a social energy. Now the third term that he has given is resonance and wonder. Now in our culture we have seen in our society that whenever we go to an exhibition or whenever we see some painting or some art, we see that there is a kind of resonance and wonder. Now what does this mean? Wonder means that at first instance you will like it, this will appeal you, right? So at first if I am seeing a painting and it is appealing to me at first because that has caught my attention, it has fascinated me, then this is known as wonder, because I am in a awe, because I have never seen this much beautiful painting till now. So this is known as wonder. But after going through this phase of wonder, I will reach in a phase of resonance. Now resonance means, does it resonate with me? Can I connect with that painting on an emotional level or on an intellectual level? So this is known as resonance. Whether the painting will keep me interested for a long time or not, this is known as resonance. So this is all about these two terms. Now the fourth term that he has given is self-fashioning. In a culture, in a society, people self-fashions them. How? So he talks this in the context of Renaissance, or we can say Elizabethan age, that in those times there was an emergence of classical learning, humanism, and new discoveries around the globe. And so because of this, the people were trying to make their own identities. They were actively shaping their own personas, identity, and constructing their how they look, how they behave, what they talk, how they walk, what they teach, what are they learning. So all these things, they were self-fashioning, they were learning to improve, they were learning. So this is known as self-fashioning. So in a culture, we people always engage in self-fashioning. Let us talk about Marshall McLuhan. Now Marshall McLuhan is a Canadian cultural critic. He is also known as the metaphysician of media and also the father of media studies. Now Marshall McLuhan has given some important key terms which we should know about. The first, he says that the medium is the message. Now what do we mean by this thing? He says that what media does to us is more important than what we do to the media. So the medium is the message. So it is not the importance of the message here, that what we are receiving, but how we are receiving, by which channel, that is more important. And he is a kind of in a favor of media. He kinds of prominently talks about media, the impact of media on the people, and he says that yes, I am fascinated by media because media is something which is kind of extending the capabilities of a human. He has given a term which is global village. Now global village means that in global village the electronic interdependence will end visual, or we can say print culture. Now what do we mean by this? That before coming of, so before the era of globalization and digitalization, people were sitting on their own and they were watching different print cultures, media, and they were consuming photographs, and they were busy in their own self, and they were enjoying different visuals. But after globalization, they are exchanging messages, audios, video calls, and they are exchanging money and different technologies. So now difference is very less between the people who are living at extreme ends of the world. So it is a kind of small village and it is global now. We all are interconnected and we can all talk in seconds. So this is the idea of global village given by Marshall McLuhan. Then he says hot and cool media. Now what is hot and cool media? Hot media is any kind of media which is of high definition but it demands little participation. Right? High definition, that means which has some quality but it demands little participation and it does not demands our active participation. For instance, we have lecture. Lecture is a kind of activity which we listens and does not tell us to do the critical thinking or to say something. In lecture we just listen it passively. So this is hot media. But cool media is something which demands our critical thinking, which is low definition but demands our active participation. So this is known as cool media. For instance, we have debate. For instance, we have seminars. Now he also talks about how all media is an extension of human capabilities or faculties. We all can see, hear, touch and feel, but by the emergence of images, audios, video calls and sensors, it is kind of amplifying our all these senses, all these five senses. So it is an amplifier, it is kind of extending our capabilities. So that is how Marshall McLuhan specifically talks that how media impacts a human being, and that is why he is known as the father of media studies. Now let us talk about our last culture critic of today's video, which is Dick Hebdige. Now Dick Hebdige was one such cultural critic, British cultural theorist, and he mainly talks about youth culture and subculture. That how in post-war United Kingdom, different kinds of youth are having their own subcultures, and they are kind of and having their own subcultures in order to resist the inequalities, unemployment and different social problems. Now there is this book which is Subculture, the Meaning of Style, published in 1979. In that book he says that there is a youth resistance and they want to form their own identities. They want to resist the dominant class. They want to resist the rules. They are into non-conformity. They do not want to conform the rules. They want to have their own ideas and expressions. This is all a kind of frustration and anger on the part of these youth of post-war England. He has given a term which is subculture. Now subculture is a group within a large group, within a cultural society, which have their own founding principles. That yes, there is a big parent group, but in that group there is also one another group which have their own principles, which have their own differences with that parent group. So this is the subculture and they are feeling very inexclusive by that parent culture. They feel kind of excluded from the mainstream society, and thus they become rebellious. They have anger. There is a very fine example of this, which is the punk. So the punk were the people who used to have anger and resistance and frustration, so they used various kind of fashionable things like different images, music, art, in order to resist the mainstream society. They came to resist the late 1970s unemployment, rising unemployment, inequality, and different social problems of 1970s, late 1970s UK. And he also talks about how music can negotiate our identity, and how in the images we can make our identities. So this is all about this video, and in this video we have discussed 5 cultural critiques, and in the upcoming video we would also discuss 5 or 6 some more cultural critiques, and that will be our last video. And in these 3 videos you will be able to cover everything, every concept of cultural studies, and most of the cultural critiques have been covered and most of the terms have been covered. So I recommend you to watch all these 3 lectures and make your own notes. And if you are not able to make the notes, then please watch these 3 lectures again and again in order to revise them, and subscribe to our channel if you are finding these video helpful, and we would come with another great video and with more effort and happy energy. So thank you.